We get a lot of serious.
Now, the city of Lake Wales just now setting their own curfew for 7 p.m. for pedestrians, and right now we're about to get an update here at 6 p.m. Now, the city of Lake Wales now setting their own for 7 p.m. for pedestrians, and right now we're about to get an update here at 6 p.m. Now, the city of Lake Wales just now setting.
Okay, let's get out to ABC Action News reporter Lauren St. Germain, who is in Bradenton right now. Lauren, how are the conditions out where you are?
Guys, right now we are in Bradenton, which is part of Manatee County. Where we are is the Cortez Plaza. So we're behind big buildings like LA Fitness, Chuck E. Cheese. I kind of want to show you our situation right now. We are in the back of a plaza. So our live truck, you see, we have 3 walls surrounding it, which helps block the wind so we can give you these live shots. I even want to point out, if I back up a little bit, the wind is much more intense. You can even see it with my jacket, where if I just step a little bit closer, you see it's much less intense, except when we get a little bit of those gusts right there. But I do want to show you, look back this way. This is kind of what we're seeing right now in Manatee County. Trees just going all over the place. And then if you look down at the rain that's coming down, it's not just staying on the ground, it's kind of spinning around, if you can see that. And also the trash cans, the roofs are flying everywhere. And those are pretty heavy lids. So, you know, obviously the wind is pretty strong out here right now. Guys, we'll be out here all night, and we will come out and do these live shots when we feel safe. We will not put our lives in jeopardy right now. But winds are definitely picking up out here in Manatee County, and we're getting those gusts. It's not sustained winds. We'll just get those quick little gusts of really stronger forced winds. So we'll be out here monitoring the conditions, keeping you guys updated. For now, I'm Lauren St. Germain. Back to you.
All right, Lauren, thank you. This is another Facebook Live from one of our many viewers from Inglewood who put it on their Facebook page of obviously some trees and wind gusts picking up in that area as well.
Yeah, a lot of palm trees there blowing in the wind, as you see down there in a lot of the Facebook Lives, and these trees here too, just kind of getting whipped around. And these winds are going to be heading our way just in the next few hours or so. Hopefully not that strong.
There you go. That's how he's riding out the storm. There you go.
A little product endorsement there.
All right, I think we now want to go to Sunny Isles. Okay, here's Sunny Isles. Many palm trees there. No match for Irma's wind. You can see them, or there's a video just into the newsroom. Palm trees down in Sunny Isles Beach. I used to live in that area. I know it well. The branches also scattered all over the ground. It's a beautiful area. It looks like they too are getting hit by Irma.
It's in Naples now, where Irma is hitting as well. Strong winds, heavy rains there. You can see the palm trees, of course, blowing in the wind.
This is near Ground Zero. This is where close to Marco Island, where the eye of the storm hit about 3:30 this afternoon.
Yeah, it's going through there right now as we speak, and certainly the conditions there are deteriorating quickly. Take a look at this video coming in from the Charlotte Harbor. It is dry, and you can see back actually the boats on dry land. We were seeing that here as well.
With the water receding so far back, it's just so unusual to see it. I know on Bayshore Boulevard, I've never seen it like that, and here we have it here too. And Dennis tells us that when the storm passes through, the water will eventually come back, and then you'll get that storm surge. It will not be like a tsunami that people are trying to spread through Facebook, but it will come back, and that's when the storm surge will happen. In some areas, up to 5 to 8 feet. I want you to take a look at these strong winds in Florida City as well. Gosh, it looks like it should be 10 o'clock at night, right? Instead of early afternoon, or early evening, I should say.
And keep this in mind, though, when you're seeing these pictures here.
City.
These folks had somewhat of the benefit of this happening during the daytime. You look out and you see this during the daytime. You see the trees kind of whipping around. Doesn't mean it's any easier to be sitting through those types of storms. But when those winds come our way tonight,
Right.
Hopefully not that strong. But when those winds come our way tonight, it's going to be in the dark. It's going
Right.
to be from what they're saying about 10 a.m.
Right. Well, no,
10
about
p.m.
2 a.m. 2
Yeah.
to 3 a.m. is what Dennis was
The worst of
predicting
it.
about the
Yeah.
worst of it coming into our viewing area in the Bay Area and several of the counties. Especially, he talked about Hillsborough and Polk County being sort of the middle of the storm.
It's tough because it's going to be in the dark.
Yeah.
It's going to be in the dark. You're going to look out your window. You're not going to really see much.
And you're going to hear the winds and not be able to see anything, which is just so scary, too.
Yeah, and your house is going to start making noises you've never heard it make before, and it's going to perhaps even move a little bit, but it's going to scare you a little bit. A lot of folks not going to have a good night's sleep.
Right, and I want to just remind you, because most everyone is going to lose power. They've been talking about that. So charge your phones now,
Yeah, while you
because
get
at
the
least
chance.
then you can have communication with your friends and family, and you can also keep us streaming. We'll be here all night long until the storm completely gets out of our area. So please charge your phones now so that you are ready to go when the electricity goes out, and you can text your friends and family, and also keep us on the whole time.
Yeah, the power goes out, but you still have some type of Wi-Fi on your phone if that's
Right.
still available. And you can watch us on our ABC Action News app. You can watch us live on our ABC Action News
We're
app.
also on Roku. We're on, although Apple TV, you would still need
Power.
some kind of connection, right? And we're also simulcasting on all the radio stations. We'll bring that up in just a minute, too.
Yeah.
Want to talk about some of the shelters?
Yeah, some of the area shelters are pet friendly, and so how are emergency coordinators organizing the needs for people sheltering there?
Okay, so ABC Action News reporter Carson Chambers is in Clearwater with more on that. Take a look.
Well, hey guys, we are at Clearwater Fundamental Middle School, which is a shelter here in Pinellas County. We're actually outside because they are allowing folks to walk their dogs. This little guy, he's so nervous. This is Black Jack and this is Patches, right? And you are?
John.
Okay, John, how are you doing? And tell me what you're doing right now.
We're doing pretty good. We're kind of nervous 'cause we're only 10 minutes away from the ocean, so we're kind of nervous what we're going to see when we go back home. Kids are kind of nervous. It's the first time they've ever been through this, so we're holding in there the best we can. It's getting pretty crowded in here, though.
And you can tell all the animals are kind
The
of...
animals know something's coming up. They're really, really getting crazy. They usually jump right to me when I come down, and today they're just huddled together in the corner. They really know something's coming.
The good news is you can walk them, put them back, and everybody's safe.
Yeah. That's the main thing. We're safe here. Out there, you don't know what you're going to get. We really still don't know what's coming. So, from what I've been watching on the news, it's going to hit us sometime late tonight, early tomorrow morning. So, the worst is yet to come.
Okay. Thank you for your time. We wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
We wish your dogs the best. We're going to send it back to you guys.
Thank you, Carson.
All right, out of something bad like Hurricane Irma comes something good.
That's right. Anchor Laura Harris is here now with new video coming into our newsroom. Laura, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to show you that in just a moment because it's just incredible video. But first, let's take a look at this. Some breaking news for you out of downtown Miami. A crane boom at a condo building under construction collapsing. You can see that yellow piece right there. It'll come back. But just about 90 minutes ago, due to the hurricane, yeah, you see that. The collapse sent bricks toppling to the ground. City officials are urging people living nearby to seek shelter because the boom is hanging off the building side. Once again, there's nothing they can do about it right now because the storm is happening. So they have to wait till the storm is over with for them to actually come and fix some of that. And, you know, we have a lot of construction areas here in Florida. I mean, that was one of the things that we were really concerned about in some of our morning meetings when we knew the storm was coming. Oh my goodness, a lot of Channel Side, a lot of
St.
different.
Pete as well.
St.
Yeah,
Pete
as well, yeah.
has those. So just make sure that we're all being safe out there. This was the part that's going to make you smile, though. We were talking about Florida Strong yesterday and how nice people have been. Well, Jameis Winston posted this to his Twitter feed earlier. The Bucs retweeted it, just kind of talking about how they were supposed to play a game today in Miami, but couldn't, of course, because of the storm. So he wanted his fans to know this.
I just want to send out prayers to everyone who's been affected by these storms over the past few weeks, and I want to continue to pray for the people who are still in the path of these storms. I just want to pray for your health and your safety.
You know, he former Florida State quarterback there, so of course he has some ties to the area. And then I want you to see this. Do you remember the story of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? His name's Bernard Reaney. He came here, you know, he had been out of...
Here's another big gust of wind right now. Definitely too dangerous for us to go in the street, so we're safely in this little corridor right here. But yeah, again, our power just went out probably for good. So we're going to have to get creative on how to charge our electronics. Luckily, we have plenty of flashlights and a light for our camera. So that's the update here in Fort Myers. For now, I'll send it back to you guys.
So they're getting very close to getting the worst of it. And this is only a half hour ago, so you can see that. All right. On Marco, we've been wanting to show this just for a little levity in all of this. This is catfish swimming down the street on Treasure Cove in Marco Island. Unfortunately, he has plenty of water to keep swimming there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not safe to go fishing yet because it's making it really easy.
Yeah, right.
We have some more street flooding. This is in the moorings west of 41 between Anchor and Harbor Drive.
This
person says in the eye at 5 o'clock. So this would be
of the state. These areas on this west coast particularly vulnerable because of the track of this storm and because of their natural geography and their dimensions when it comes to water, sea level. We're only at about 5 feet above sea level. So it's very vulnerable to storm surge, and that unfortunately may be the component that's happening right now. As much as 10 feet is expected here. It could be coming all the way up to where we are. We're about 3/4 of a mile from the Gulf of Mexico and the marinas here. So this is the backside of the storm. The front side of the storm is even more powerful by a multiple, in fact. So let's get to Alex Marquardt. He's in Sarasota dealing with Hurricane Irma. What are you seeing?
Well, Chris, there is absolutely no mistaking the fact that Hurricane Irma is headed directly this way. In just the past hour, there has been a significant uptick in this rain that is just absolutely pelting us. The wind that is barreling down this street down here in central Sarasota. Now, we know that the winds are well above 45 miles an hour at this point. We were at a shelter earlier when they shut down. Once the winds did reach 45 miles an hour, as we have been reminding people, the emergency services, 911, will no longer respond to calls once the winds reach 45 miles an hour. You can see here behind me, it is absolutely a ghost town. The only vehicles that we have seen are firemen, ambulances, police cars. Those lights in the distance are still on. We still have power. Like many in southern Florida, we do expect to lose that in the coming hours. Chris, this is really an appetizer for the storm that is coming. In comparison to what you are seeing down there, we expect to see what you are experiencing around midnight our time. That's in almost 6 hours. But we will begin to experience hurricane force winds around 9 p.m. Those winds will kick up to around 75 to 95 miles an hour, with gusts going up above 100 miles an hour. So Category 1, Category 2. Everyone here hunkered down. There are around 16,000 people in the shelters. Those who aren't are at home. They are preparing for things to get much, much worse in the hours to come. Chris?
Well, Alex, let me give you some advice, having gone through it already with Ed Lavandera here. Make sure that once you deal with the front side of the storm, position yourself so that you're still facing into the wind on the back side of the storm. We weren't able to do that because of where we are right now in Naples and where we are just situated within Naples, and getting it hitting you from behind as you're trying to tell people what's going on is a little bit more difficult to task. So be safe.
The communications are going in and out.
No.
So I'm going to have to toss it back to you.
Don't worry about it, Alex. Don't worry about it, Alex. I'll give you the advice. I'll send you an email just about how to deal with it when the storm comes from the backside. All right, so right now, if I can, I'd like to bring in Chad Myers if he's available. Is he?
Absolutely, Chris. What do you need, buddy?
All right, Chad. So we're dealing with the wind coming in the opposite direction now, right, as that big weather vane, the crane, is making very clear. But it's pretty intense. What we're dealing with right now. So why don't you take us through what you see on the map?
Even though there's not truly an eye wall on the bottom side of this, there's not big severe thunderstorms on the back side of this storm where you are down here in Naples, there's still enough spin. There's still enough low pressure right at the center of this that you're going to have winds. And in fact, even today in Atlanta, our winds were 45 miles per hour and we're hundreds of miles away. So if you're only 20 miles away, you're still going to get winds whether there's a significant severe weather event in the eye wall or not. So easily for you, as the backside comes through, 70 to 80 miles per hour with a gust to 90, even though we're almost in clear air back out here. So that will eventually push the water into your bay. And I want to give you an idea of what's happened to this water. Here's where we are now, up 5 feet. This is a 5-foot surge right at the tide gauge here in Naples. We were down 2.5 feet. So our surge so far is 7.5 feet from where we were, and we're still going up. I don't know where we stop, but Chris will keep watching it, because if we get water in Naples downtown, that's what we're expecting right there in downtown. That would be that 10-foot surge, because that intersection you're showing now is about 10 feet above sea level.
All right, I'm keeping eyes up the street for you, Chad, and I'll let you know as I start to see any movement there at all. We can't get any closer to there, and I'm not going to send anybody down there. So yes. Let's take a break right now, and when we come back, we will take you to where Irma is headed, and we'll check in back here in Naples with where she's already been, and in Miami as well.
Okay, let's take a look at this next video.
So let's look at Christopher Bravo, I believe, sent this video to us from Henley Court in Fort Myers. And you can see, look at the water all over the roadway. That is just heartbreaking to see all that rainwater and all that freshwater flooding already before they even are seeing anything post-hurricane. But there's a lot of wind in that area, too. And Christopher, thank you so much for sending that in to us and letting your neighbors know around Henley Court what it's like there.
And this, look at this. This is inside Gulf Harbor in South Fort Myers earlier this evening. And again, a lot of trees. It looks like trees swaying and trees down. I just want to read you, if I can find it really quickly here, something of somebody who lives in there told me. A tree fell on top of a condo at Gulf Harbor a little while ago. Okay, and I have a picture now. We'll try to get that together and get that on TV for you. But yeah, so there's definitely been a little bit of damage anyway in the Gulf Harbor neighborhood off of McGregor near Gladiolus.
We have some video from Sherry in Cape Coral showing a neighbor's fence being blown apart and part of an Australian pine that toppled over in Cape Coral.
We're going to head inland now to Clewiston, and we're so happy that Donald Stark sent us this first video we're seeing from the Clewiston area. Is some video of some damage that has already occurred. Look at that roof tile being blown off. There's the metal from that roof, and the trees down all over the street and in that neighborhood. So they are seeing very heavy winds and rain bands going through Clewiston as well today. And really for them, it is a big wind event. And you can see some of the damage they're already seeing as a result. Look at that tree down. You see the big root ball in the middle of their screen there. And so they're having a lot of trouble in Clewiston as well.
This is 6 Mile Cypress in Fort Myers, and obviously through someone's pool cage, but wow, look at those palm trees go. A lot of neighborhoods going through that right now, and a lot of people in that same situation with all those pool screens, very vulnerable pool screens and vulnerable aluminum cages underneath all those trees. There's going to be a lot of those scattered about in various different conditions by this time tomorrow.
One of our former producers, Laura Shea, who's on Mohawk in Cape Coral, is on the phone with us. And Laura, we have some video that you've sent to us as well that we're going to play so that you can hopefully talk us through it. First of all, Laura, how are you doing?
I'm okay. This is my first hurricane, and I'm not a native Floridian, so it's a little nerve-wracking. I've been okay up until about now. It's getting pretty windy. But other than that, pretty much smooth sailing. Our house is new, and it's concrete block, and we've got impact windows and roll-down screens. So we've actually been able to watch the storm as it changed as it came in. So it's been interesting, but still a little nerve-wracking.
You know, you prepared your house perfectly. You got the impact glass and the roll-down screens, so you're in the safest place you could be in terms of hurricane. You know, you've prepared and you're ready to go, Laura. So what about the weather you've seen outside? When did you start seeing bad weather, and how quickly has it deteriorated?
I woke up to rain about 6:30 this morning, and it really wasn't too windy. It was probably around lunchtime we started to really see the wind pick up. And I would say in the last couple hours, it's gotten pretty bad. We have some fences around our neighborhood that have kind of toppled over, like portions have toppled over. There's a boat that's in a lot across the street that they've lost their T-top, they've lost a canopy. We actually still have power right now, which I'm completely shocked. But, you know, I'm actually in our patio right now where the roll down screens are.
All right, Chris Cuomo in Naples, Florida, along the western coast of the state. This is a area of particular concern because it's only 5-10 feet above sea level. And what we're dealing with right now is the backside of the storm. The eye passed over. There were gusts up to, I believe, 140 miles an hour. Chad Myers says that will stand up as some type of potential record. But while the wind gets the headlines, it's the water you have to worry about. It is drowning that causes the most death in a hurricane. Storm surge is directly related to that type of concern. So what we're dealing with now is this backside of the storm. Counterclockwise, the storms move. So the energy distributes on one side, now comes back on the other side. That's why the water was getting sucked out of the bayous and the bays up on this side of the state as the storm moved here. Now we're getting that wind back in, and with it will come that water, and with it will come storm surge. So we're keeping our eyes open to see how far and how much that is, and we'll use Chad to take us through it. There are some very upsetting numbers that are coming out of this storm. Right now, 2.3 million people are without power in Florida, and compounding the loss may be the length of loss, how long they go without power. It could be days or weeks, the governor's office said. So 2.3 million, and again, the storm has not made it the full length of this state yet. Also, 70,000 people are in shelters. That is actually good news, because that means that people got out and got to a position of safety. We did hear about some power loss in a shelter from Drew Griffin a little bit further north from here, but nothing disastrous or no real danger at any of the shelters, and that's good news. We spoke to Bill Weir, who's doing surveillance of the debris fields and the different damage from Irma starting in Key Largo and moving north. He hasn't heard about anything disastrous or deadly yet. It's early, but take good news where we find it. So that is the situation here in Naples. We're going to start checking around and seeing how other people are doing. Controller, you tell me who we have, because I know it's not easy to get shots up right now. All right, so we'll go to Miguel Marquez. He's north of us in Punta Gorda. That's a place that's been very hard hit in the past. Miguel, how's it doing right now? You were showing an amazing picture earlier, I'm told, of the water being sucked out of a marina, replaced temporarily with fresh water, flood water from the rain. How is it now?
Yeah, we're still in that same situation. This is actually a boat ramp in the main marina in Punta Gorda, and I should be covered in water right now, seawater. But instead, the entire marina is completely devoid of any seawater. The only water you're seeing here, that ship off in the distance, that boat with the lights on, that is sitting on mud, as is the sailboat right in front of it. All the water in here right now is all fresh water that's just pouring in off the land. They're expecting a storm surge when this storm turns around and starts coming back the other way, a storm surge of 5 to 8 feet. I want to show you what's going on with the trees there. I saw the lights flicker out here, at least in the area we're in Punta Gorda, so they may have lost electricity here. But you can see the intensity of the wind here. We're probably getting 50, 60 mile per hour winds at this point, because it hurts not only when I put my hand out and it hurts the skin, but even through the jacket, it is painful to feel the water hitting the jacket, and you can feel it through the jacket. The storm really kicking up now. This is what you guys were experiencing probably a couple of hours ago. The eye wall still probably an hour out, 2 hours out from here. The emergency services says they're preparing for hurricane force winds in this area around 8 p.m. tonight. Everybody is to shelter in place and just try to ride this one out. Chris?
All right, Miguel, please stay safe and stay in contact and let me know when to come back to you, and we will straight away. Let's get to Drew Griffin right now. He's in Fort Myer. What are you seeing there right now, Drew?
We are shooting Okay, we good? Yeah, someone's gone. Okay, all right. We're just in the cove of this building. The wind is incredible, Chris. We're going to just try to regather. We thought we heard something falling. There's a lot of gutters coming down the street, and here's the situation. We are very much near the Southwest Florida Fort Myers Airport, so whatever wind gust Chad Myers is getting there, that's what we're getting now. Visually, this is the worst wind we have had to date, and it seems to be increasing yet as the eye wall should be approaching us now here in the Fort Myers area. Just incredible wind. I know you can't see it, Chris, but you might be able to hear it. It is just blasting through here, and there's a lot. Anything that is loose, any of the debris is now flying, and you really need to be sheltered from this, which we are. We are behind a solid building, 4-story building, taking you pictures of this. But the trees that were being battered are now laying down. And the actual cars, I see a Jeep Cherokee in the parking lot. It's just getting bobbed around in the wind. So we feel like we're getting the brunt of the storm in Fort Myers right now in terms of the wind, Chris. Be interesting to see if Chad Myers can confirm the strength of the wind that we're seeing right now, right near the airport. Chris?
Oh, he'll measure it, and I'll pass it along straight away, Drew. And obviously, you know you've been through this before. You're going to get it one way. There's going to be a window where that eye goes over, if it does, where there'll be some relative calm, and then you're going to get it the other way. That's the way we're getting it right now in Naples as the backside of the storm, even though there's not a wall on the backside. It's plenty strong. The gusts we're getting are impressive, and you have the added consideration of storm surge and the added consideration to that of the weak points of leverage of all the structures and the trees that took all that force in the opposite direction. So now the way that they were leaning is getting buffeted by wind in the opposite direction. That can have a compounding effect, makes it even more likely that you're going to have damage and extra debris in the debris field. So, Drew, hang tight there and just give me one sense. What are you hearing from people inside those shelters? Anything? Are people relatively okay? Are they dealing with the situation well? You're hearing anything at all?
Yeah, they're dealing with the situation fine, and right now this is they're glad they're in a shelter, quite frankly. There were a lot of people ho-humming, wondering whether or not this was not going to be what it was. They are realizing now that this is the real deal. This is why they're in a shelter, and this is why we're staying out of harm's way. Chris, we'll keep our shot up as you continue to move along because the wind is impressive. It takes the breath out of me and it takes the words out of my mouth, so we'll just show you the pictures.
Listen, I'm with you. I know from whence you speak. So, look, stay as safe as you can. You know how to do the job. I'll check back with you in a little bit. Stay in contact with the control room. Let us know what we need to know. Let's go right now to Brian Todd. He's in West Palm Beach, okay? That's further south here in that Miami area on that eastern part of the state. They got hit plenty hard there. Let's check in with him now. Brian, what's the latest from where you are?
Well, Chris, the wind has not decreased in intensity at all. It is incredibly intense here. Hurricane-force winds have been going on for hours, and they've only been intensifying. We are in what they call the dirty end of the storm, the northeast quadrant, and the danger that we have here, in addition to the storm surge and the wind, is tornadic activity. Tornadoes have been kind of cropping up. The threats have been cropping up. We've been under warnings from the west, the north, the south, and from water spouts that have been developing offshore. I mean, you can see how it's just buffeting me right now. I'm going to have our photojournalist David Brooks pan over. You can see some David's got to be steady by our producer here, David Shortell. There's been such intense wind here. You see those modern art sculptures there? That one on the far right, that cube, that just got lifted up and moved about 40 yards to where it is. That is what we're dealing with here, with some of the, almost tornado-like activity here and tornado threats. What I can also tell you, Chris, we've just gotten word from authorities here in Palm Beach County. Their sheriff has tweeted out a message of condolence because he has reported that 2 law enforcement officers in Hardee County, Florida, which is north of here, have died in some kind of a vehicle crash. So you've got 2 law enforcement officers who are being told by Palm Beach officials who have died in some kind of a vehicle crash north of here. The details are not great at the moment as to what happened to those 2 officers, but they were apparently in some kind of an evacuation zone when their vehicle crashed. So that's one thing that we can tell you. Another thing is, officials here have made about 40-plus arrests of people who have violated curfew. You see just how intense the storm activity is here. At times, visibility has been almost nil behind us. We've got a construction site back there, and debris has been flying from that thing all day long. So just about everything you can see here that's not a building can be a potential projectile. These stanchions here from this traffic light have been wobbling for hours, as have these regular road signs over here. We've been thinking that they may be uprooted. Storm surge is also going to be an issue. They're worried about more flooding on Flagler Drive here. That could come anytime. The storm surge hasn't been too bad in the last few hours, thankfully. That's something that they're watching very intensely here in West Palm Beach, Chris.
All right, Brian, very sobering news about those officers. Let us know if you get any details there. But, of course, the priority is on keeping yourself and your team safe. Those arrests, it's also upsetting. I mean, if it was just for curfew, that's one thing. But if there's more nefarious activity, you know, a situation like this when we're dealing with the worst, we really need the best out of everybody on the ground who's going through it and to pull together. That's what's going to make this storm survivable in the main. All right, let's take a break right now. Brian Todd, thank you very much. We'll check back with you. We have at CNN people everywhere this
but I don't feel any air, any wind or anything, but you can hear everything.
So, Laura, I know you can see the canal back there. What does it look like out there right now?
So we're on a freshwater canal, and we're actually at the very, very end of the freshwater canals in Cape Coral. And it's gotten pretty high because the wind has pushed all of the water down towards us. We're actually seeing a couple of white caps in our canal, which is not something you typically see. But it's done pretty high. It hasn't gone over any seawalls yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it reached that by the time the eye got here.
We're just glad you're safe, Laura. And, you know, you have a lot of friends here at Wink TV. And if you still have power in a few hours, you're going to have a lot of old friends from Wink TV stopping by to say hi and, you know, maybe borrow the shower and all those things that, you know.
Of course you're kidding, because 60 miles per hour, but they're still shaking. I have my hand on it right here, and they're shaking. And through this wind.
But definitely, regardless, things looking for the better. And we will be bracing for those winds coming out of another direction that could push that water in here and create storm surge problems as the second half of that storm that you mentioned begins to roll through. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on the Gulf. I can see the waves just rolling out on the Gulf of Mexico right now.
Okay, and Channing, our meteorologists are telling us you are in the eye and that you will have some other strong weather coming towards you, and we're going to come back to you when you start to feel that effects, because they don't have any reports from anyone who has actually been through the second half of that eye wall, and they would love to hear from you if you can still safely do so. We know that there's rain there, but we just don't know how strong the winds are. So we'll try to get back to you when that occurs, all right?
Absolutely. We will stay here. We will stay safe, and we will let you know as soon as those winds start picking back up again.
Okay. Thank you very much, Channing. Stay safe out there.
All right, let's get to Wink News reporter Taylor Bisaki on Fort Myers Beach right now. Taylor, tell us what you're seeing.
Well, as Channing's in the eye, it's approaching us now, and I just want to get right out there and show you what we're looking at. Now, we're looking through these hurricane windows right now, and I believe that they can withstand 160 miles per hour, but they're still shaking. I have my hand on it right here, and they're shaking, and through this window, you can see those palm trees just blowing in the wind, bending. We have some of the palm trees on the ground already as well, and if we just keep walking down these windows here, well, this is all down Estera Boulevard. Again, we are at the Diamond Head Beach Resort. Now, earlier we just had a meeting with everybody who is staying here at 4:30, and as this eye approaches us, we are expecting some stronger winds, and we do have a game plan in place. We will be moving away from the windows, but in case things start to get more intense, we're going to go inside of the ballroom, and then we possibly might even move into the stairwell. But again, we are indoors. a common feeling that's going on right now is everybody's a little anxious. We're waiting for the effects of these storms. We're feeling that anxiety. Some people scared. We did talk to someone earlier who you guys heard from. She was saying that this is the first time she's ever experienced anything like it, just like for many of us and our viewers, we've never experienced anything like this before. So we're all kind of sitting on the edge of our chairs waiting for this to come. But as I'm still broadcasting right here, you can still hear, I'm sure you can hear what's going on outside, even though we are inside. We're going to continue to watch what goes on. And of course, we will continue with our game plan if things get more dangerous.
Yeah, we can definitely hear the wind howling where you are, Taylor. We'll be checking in. So as we continue to make our way north with our live shots, we would go out to reporter John Carlos Estrada. He's in Port Charlotte off of Kings Highway and 75. John Carlos?
Amanda, that's right. We were told within the next hour they're going to be closing the doors at the country inn where we're staying at. So we figured we'd take you outside one last time. And I want to show you something that we're keeping an eye on. We're keeping an eye on this sign right over there. You can see it is bent over. The wind's really picking up right now. If you joined us about 3 hours ago, we were standing right over there. That sign pretty much standing up. Now, let's take a look right here. There is a woman. A lot of the dogs that we're staying with at this hotel, they're getting their last walk-in before the storm really hits. A lot of people taking out their dogs. We just saw 2 other dogs.
All right, we have an update of information here in Naples, Florida. I'm Chris Cuomo. We're on the western coast of Florida. And what we've just been told from the National Weather Center is that the water level has raised itself 7 feet in the last 90 minutes. The water level here in Naples, Florida has gone up 7 feet in the last 90 minutes. Chad Myers, if you're still with me,
yes.
I can't see it. We can't get down there. I can't put eyes on it. Right. I do not see it coming up this street yet. These gusts are no joke. I'm sure that's going to help motivate the surge. What do you know?
It's the exact thing that in opposite that pushed the water away. Now we have the winds pushing back onshore there and the water from offshore being pushed not only with the bubble of surge, but being pushed along just the same. There's Bonita Springs, Cape Coral, and Fort Myers right in it. Our reporter there was asking what it was like. That was 105. 125 is still on the way, about 5 minutes from right now. Marco Island now beginning to flood. Marco Island PD just put out a tweet saying, San Marco Road underwater, do not try to travel on it. And there was a picture there. So the water is coming up in San Marco. The water is coming up in Naples. And let me show you if I can get to the Naples map. Here's the reason why they said up 7 feet. We were 6.09 above sea level. Down here, we were 2.5 below. So that surge is now up 8.5 feet from where we were. And that's not a straight line going up, but it's not leveling off. That water's still going up in Marco Island. That water's still going up here as you take a look at Naples. And that's the next stop. I mean, the next stop for the wind coming back around is the backside of Naples. That's the wind you're seeing now. Now, Chris, you had 141. Earlier on the top side when you had the storm itself, the thunderstorms as well. You're not going to get 141 on the backside because there really isn't much of a storm system there. You know how every time a band comes by, the wind picks up? Well, there's no band there anymore. So your wind is going to be 80 or 90 miles per hour, whereas that's almost what they're still seeing on the East Coast. The important part is there is still an eastward component to that wind pushing that water back into Marco Island and into Naples itself. That's the big story for the rest of the night. As we push you ahead, we move the storm forward to Cape Coral, to Port Charlotte, to Punta Gorda, and to Bradenton. This is where the storm is going next. It is losing some intensity, but not much, because the pressure is still 938 millibars. Go look on the barometer that your grandfather bought you. You're going to see 27.70. That's probably as far as that thing goes. That's the pressure right now of this storm. It is losing some wind, but it's not losing pressure, so it's still going to have a significant wind event, storm surge, all the way up through Tampa tonight, and eventually all the way up towards St. Mark's in the Big Bend of Florida in the overnight and morning hours. Chris?
Chad, give me some timing. What's over Marco Island right now? What is it, ETA, in terms of coming to Naples, and what's your sense of duration of that backside? And I ask because contextually, Brian Todd is still getting hammered and he's in West Palm Beach. I mean, it's a big storm. It never seems to end.
West Palm is still in it because that outer eye wall is still there. The outer band is still there. There's a band through here, Fort Myers. Just look for the colors on a radar map, and that's where you know the wind is going to be strongest. Now, the wind in a hurricane is strong up above. The winds up there are not 2 times, but 1.5 times higher than at the surface. So when it rains down, that rain brings the wind with it. It rolls the wind with it. So that's where, when it's not raining, the wind isn't so bad. When it is raining, this is the translational wind coming from up above in the energy of the hurricane and coming down to the surface. And that's what you were in earlier. This is where the translational wind is right now, just to the east of Bonita Springs, to the east here of Cypress Lake. And that's where the heaviest wind is now. This will rotate around, and you will get to Cape Coral. You'll get to Punta Gorda. You'll get those significant winds with wind damage. It's just the surge right now that we're waiting on. And right now, the water is up about 8.5 feet from where it was when the storm just went by. And it's still going up for you, Chris. I don't think we're waiting on. And right now, the water, 2 more hours. The water will rise slowly, still one wave after another, for 2 more hours for you. We'll see where it ends up.
All right, good to know. And again, it's not easy to stand in it, but our hearts go out to the families and the seniors who stayed behind and are suffering through it indoors right now. Many of them without power. Over 2 million people, almost 2.5 million people without power now. So imagine, you guys who are watching this have the benefit of Chad Myers and the science and understanding the timing. And let me tell you, it can seem like an eternity if you don't have a sense of when something is supposed to end. So our hearts go out to those people, and we look forward to this being over so we can get out and see what people need and start dealing with recovery. But we're not there yet. In fact, we're not even close. So let's get to Ryan Young. He's still on the front side of this storm in St. Petersburg. Ryan, if you can hear me, what's the status?
Well, absolutely, Chris. We've seen the winds pick up here. And I'll tell you this, as someone who grew up in Florida, you mark your life by hurricanes. And I can remember Hurricane Andrew just as clear as yesterday in terms of where it marked my life. This might be the same thing for this storm in terms of people talking about the power of it, especially folks who live in this area who weren't expecting the sort of power to come through the area. Of course, talking to friends who live in Miami, they talk about the fact you're still dealing with the winds hours and hours later. But here, we're starting to see things pick up. The good news is people have gotten off the road. We've even seen people who were desperate to get wood up on their windows. So what they did was they even took wooden benches, put them up to their windows, and started drilling in. Talked to a man who lived through Andrew. He said he never in his life wanted to go through a hurricane again. He was boarding up his dream home, but he wanted to get out of the area. That desperation, you can feel it from people who decided to get out. Talking to folks who've gone to hotels, they said they would rather stay in a hotel than be in a home and experience this by themselves. But at this hour, as you see the roadway here, still power on. That is a key part at this point. Nothing has been going off at this point. We've heard transporters popping earlier, but so far that power still remains. The power lines above our heads at this point are shaking back and forth, but nothing seriously moving or snapping. So that is the good news, because I heard you talk about that snap, crackle, pop earlier. Some trees have gone down, but so far we haven't heard about any serious damage or, of course, any loss of life or anyone in trouble as we keep checking in with emergency management.
All right, Ryan Young, excellent reporting. Please stay safe, my friend. I put you in the wrong place. You are in Clearwater, Florida. You are dealing with Irma on the front end. Stay in touch with us. I'll get back to you in a little bit. All right, let's take a break right now. We are in complete coverage of Hurricane Irma, what she's done so far and where she is to go.
Come out before the winds start picking up. They're going to close the doors here at the Country Inn in Port Charlotte within the next hour because the winds again have really picked up. Now, I spoke to a man who is originally from New Jersey, moved here to Charlotte County 2 years ago, and says that his neighbor got him into this hotel just yesterday. Take a listen.
Luckily, my neighbor got me a room here, put me on a waiting list, which I didn't think was going to happen. I'm like, okay, thanks, Lou. But we got in here, thank God. We just got here yesterday.
And a really sense of community here at the Country Inn in Port Charlotte. A lot of people helping each other out. There was a woman out here that was trying to walk her dog, and actually the maintenance man of this hotel offered to walk the dog for her because the winds, as you can see right behind me, we're next to this brick wall. So everyone, we're safe, but right behind this brick wall, look how intense this is. I want to zoom into that sign one more time. That sign 3 hours ago was standing up, and now we're not sure how long it's going to stick around for. But you can see big gust of wind here in Charlotte County as we prepare for Hurricane Irma to head our way. And I just want to remind everyone out there, we have a view of Kings Highway. We've seen a couple of cars drive. At this point, just go home, seek shelter because you do not want to be driving in these conditions. First responders in Charlotte County were moved off the roads around noon, and also there is a curfew at 9 p.m. But again, the wind's picking up here in Charlotte County as we prepare for Hurricane Irma to head our way. Back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, John Carlos. We want to show you a couple pictures from around the area. We have a new picture from Dennis Roth. He is in southeast Cape Coral. He's around 10th Avenue and 7th Place. And he took this picture that we're showing you here now about 4:30. And you can see all the standing water there. And that is fresh water from the rainfall, clearly, because we don't have surge in this area yet. So they have a lot of rain in Cape Coral, and we won't have rainfall amounts for you for quite some time.
Well, Hutcherson took this one from the Renaissance neighborhood in South Fort Myers, which is right near 75 and Daniels. Video from about 4:15 this afternoon, and you can certainly see all the palm trees moving there as the winds start to pick up in the southern part of Lee County, and that was an hour ago already.
So let's go back down to Naples. Eileen Rollins sent in this video from Vanderbilt Beach, Gulf Shore Drive here during part of the storm, and so we imagine that she's been able to perhaps experience the eye as well. And what we're looking for is those firsthand accounts of the second part, the southern part of the hurricane.
That's right. Let's go to Cape Coral again, southwest Cape Coral. This is from Joe Vickery around 2:30 this afternoon. And there was a lot of wind gusts blowing the rain around in that section of the Cape at that time. You see the trees bending and blowing. We don't see any damage in this video, although if the winds get stronger in that area, you could see a lot of damage in the part of the southwest Cape as well.
All right, this new video is from Fort Myers, the San Simeon development in Fort Myers, Colonial and Winkler. No damage, thankfully, from about 3 o'clock. But you can see, again, the winds and the rain just relentless and only getting worse.
Sean Graham sent in some video from Southwest 30th Terrace in Cape Coral. And you can see that water is moving very quickly. And this picture of a pool cage, and you can see the screens are blowing back and forth, the bottom part taken out by the wind as well.
We have a picture from Deep Creek in Punta Gorda. It was taken about 4:15, this video, to show us what's happening there. Some tremendous wind gusts in that neighborhood. And if you
overnight, as Tampa Bay is especially vulnerable to this type of...
Well, the wind, Arthel, still isn't that bad, but we've got this remarkable effect as we look out into Hillsborough Bay here. You can see all of the exposed bottom of the Hillsborough Bay. That stretches out hundreds of yards. It was much drier earlier. I can show you video when word went out on social media of this harbinger of the storm surge, and people came out with their curiosity at full blare and walked out into the center of the bay. Police came with their loudspeakers, told them they were doing the wrong thing, told them to come in. I talked to some of the people who were out there. They said they wanted to satisfy their curiosity. All of them said they had a plan to retreat as this storm gets worse. Now, I talk about this, and Janice talked about how much you have in the way of problems when the water comes in here. The water is expected to come rolling back into Tampa Bay and all the connected bodies of water. And then it doesn't have anywhere to go as it rises up, but to push into the low-lying areas, to push into the tributaries. That is why the local authorities have been
the worst
so
of it.
concerned.
Where I'm standing
That's
right now is sort of a good picture of what we've seen. All of these branches and dirt have come down throughout the day. Of course, we've seen the images of the 2 cranes here in Miami that have spun, including 2 partial collapses as well. This road where I am is Biscayne Boulevard, right in the middle of downtown Miami. This road is now clear, but I can tell you earlier today this was filled with water, definitely not passable by cars. The main cars we've seen pass through at this point, you just saw one go by. Emergency response vehicles indicating that there are situations that they do plan to respond to today. While the rain has let up, you mentioned a good point that the next threat that people and officials have warned people about is that threat of storm surge that comes right after. I can tell you here at the hotel where we are staying, this is the first day we've lost power, and that is a number we've seen start to grow by 1,000 and is now in the millions statewide, and that is an issue that is going to continue to plague officials. But here in Miami, what would ordinarily be a very busy downtown on a Sunday afternoon is desolate, a ghost town, and we've even seen roofs come off some of the restaurants here as well. So Irma, while it did not the eye as well did not come directly into where we are standing right now, the threat and the effects of Irma were felt very, very strongly here.
All right, Omar, stay safe. Stay in touch. Let me know when I need to come back to you. Let's get to Bill Weir. He was in Key Largo. He is now driving north to surveil the situation. And Bill, we're here in Naples, and we are getting beaten up by the backside of Irma.
Man, I feel you, brother. I've been there. We did it this morning, and now we're trying to see what's left as Irma blows town. We are in Key Largo, actually heading south. And here's a look at this pile of flotsam here in the middle of US 1, the overseas highway. Looks like there's some major appliances in there. That looks like a freezer. There's a jet ski. All kinds of debris. And this is like, you would think that this is windblown, but from the looks of it, it was washed up here by the storm surge. We are actually pointed south right now. The Atlantic Ocean is to your left on the screen, and boy, the folks who live on that side, you know, that, I don't know, maybe prime property, but they really paid the price for that real estate. But as you can see, these are all newer homes. Those are post-Andrew homes up on the stilts, solid construction. And one thing that strikes me as I drive around today, we are seeing some devastated mobile home parks and boats and trailers tossed every which way. It looks like there's a container here that actually might have been stacked there before the storm. It looks like they used that to hold it down, to weight it against the wind. But what really strikes me, Chris, is when you look at the pictures here in the Upper Keys compared to the devastation down in Cuba and in some of the other Caribbean islands where they don't have building codes. It's a stark difference. Let's take a left here and see what's happening closer to the Atlantic. I'm cutting across. Here's a shot. That's the northbound lane of US 1. You can see why people are driving the wrong way on this highway. Yeah, Rod, you can roll it down. We're just getting a new fresh rain band kicking up here. It's been interesting. Hopefully you will, once it gets past you, Chris, there, you'll be able to get a lull in the storm the way we're now. But yeah, here's a looks like a dock that is washed up onto this street. Coconuts and palm fronds and down trees literally everywhere. And it really comes down to the sturdiness of your construction, depending on what's left. Wow, this one really took a hit over here on the left. Oh, this is Snappers, is it?
This is Snappers.
Oh, okay, this is, yeah, wow, I forgot this is where we were. This is, look at that. I didn't even know where we were turning, but this is where we were doing our Thursday night live shots. If you remember the people partying and making fun of those who evacuated early, this is it. And my goodness, and this is the Jack.
All right, we lost Bill Weir. We'll check back with him. But he is showing a stark difference between the romanticism that he chronicled of the conch lifestyle and that rugged individualism of wanting to wait out the storm regardless of the evacuation calls, and the reality of what Irma did down there. And it's still very early. We know what happened in the Caribbean, but not really. We don't know the full toll of what happened there. In Cuba, we still know very little. And we don't know a lot about what's happened here yet. So far, the news has not been that dire in terms of loss of life. That's good, but again, it's early. And the number one killer in a hurricane is not wind, it's water. And storm surge is just starting to come into effect. That's what we're dealing with here in Naples. The eye has gone by. This is the backside. We're not getting crushed with rain the way we did the first time. And maybe the wind's not as strong, but it's still plenty strong. And instead of rain this time, it's bringing with it water. All that water it sucked out is now going to come back, and there's a multiplier effect. That's the danger of the surge. So let's take a break right now. When we come back, we'll take you to the places that are dealing with the front side of Hurricane Irma and those who are still dealing with the storm surge threat, and that is the deadly concern. We'll be back.
So, Jeff, what are you seeing there right now?
Yeah, we're right on the Gulf, Eric, and maybe you see the same sort of scene that Mike's seeing. This is John's Pass right here, which is a pass that was cut out to the Gulf on an earlier hurricane. Look at that. Nobody's ever seen water like that. And, you know, Mike's talking about people and curfews and all that sort of thing. Well, I got a bunch of people who don't give a hoot about a doggone curfew. These folks are staying it. You're sticking it out here.
Yes, sir.
What possesses you?
This is one of the safest structures in town.
Yeah, you told me about this parking garage. What's the deal on it?
It's basically built in about 2012, give or take, and rated at 175 miles an hour.
Yeah, if you spin, maybe Bob sees this. This is the place to go. This is a place of refuge, a parking garage, and I'll tell you.
I would call it a motley crew out here.
I was going to say it might. I don't see any. I don't see anybody disagreeing. What? That's your dog, by the way. What?
That is his dog.
Whose dog is it?
Oh, that's Tesla.
Tesla. Yeah. What possesses you guys to stay here?
Well, for starters, there wasn't really many safe places to go, it seemed, in the first place. We could have gone to Tampa, but they're going to get hit just as hard with the wind. And, well, we want to help people, honestly.
Yeah, there you go.
Beach. You got to take care of our stuff on our beach.
I was going to say, yeah, a lot of people have left a lot of stuff. Maybe you see... Arthur, I don't know if we can see, and Eric, no, we can't see the boat. There are guys that are staying on a boat out there, right?
You can. A lot of these guys are actually staying on boats. A lot of the sailboats and everything are out there on the hook because it's safer there than moored up against a dock.
Yeah, I was going to say, when this water comes back in, we're talking earlier about this, and Bob, if you see out to the Gulf, when this back end of the storm comes around, we're going to get this water coming back that same way, right?
Every action has an opposite and equal reaction.
Yeah.
And I have never seen this in almost 4 years, especially, yes, the way it's happening. 40 years here, I've never seen as much land showing right around here.
It just sucked the water just completely out of it.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. That is crazy. Nobody expecting that. And Arthella and Eric, I leave you with maybe a picture out at the Gulf there. As I said, because of the counterclockwise rotation, we're getting wind blowing into the Gulf, which is knocking those waves down. But we're going to get it a different way very shortly. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but we'll see. Guys?
Well, you know, Jeff, when you say very shortly, I mean, the worst is on its way. Do they and you have some place to go, as authorities say, to be safe, basically in a high level in the building that you're at?
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of people, surviving a hurricane in a building like this is not a problem. That's not going to be a problem. But I tell you, they wish you didn't survive it when you do survive it, because after the water goes down, I suspect we won't have power, we won't have water, we won't have much of anything, and maybe not the ability to get back to dry land at some point. So it could be kind of miserable out here. You know how things are after a hurricane. Gets hot, no air conditioning, gets pretty unpleasant. So we'll see how that goes.
And so it appears to be going down a little bit, but just really not a good situation to be in. I know that the storm, at least the bulk of it, has got past Miami, but we're still getting heavy gusts. The rain is still coming down, and it's really not advised for people to be coming out because of down power lines and because of what we just showed you from the panorama building. I mean, there are construction sites all over Miami where things could potentially come down on you. So it's a dangerous situation post-storm, and we're not even fully out of it yet.
Yeah, you know, Brian, that was the danger and the worry over Hurricane Andrew back in 1992, that it would have a direct hit on downtown. Any indication about any injuries? Some people who live in those apartments may have sheltered in place. There was that evacuation order, but some folks just went into the stairways.
We got one man who's actually lives in the building across from the panorama on the 42nd floor. One of those panels came crashing into his balcony, completely tearing it off. We'll have photos of that a little later. But that was the kind of situation these folks were dealing with when they were in their own condos. You know, this area, guy, if you can go this way, this area was under a mandatory evacuation, and for good reason, because they fully expected a storm surge here. And the bottom line is that when you've got water, rescue crews can't get to you. And the last thing you want to do, let me just get this for Guy here. The last thing you want to do is find yourself in a situation where you need help and people can't get to you. So from what we understand, people have lost power here. They're starting to come out. You've probably seen a half a dozen people.
And are those alarms that we hear? Kind of burglar alarms?
Yes, those alarms. That looks like they're coming from that way. I'm not entirely sure what it is. I mean, you see the parking garage beeping. You know, Eric, just 20 feet down, I should say 200 feet down the road, we saw a parking garage that's completely flooded, inundated. And this is just, this is the kind of flooding we're seeing. That's the JW Marriott Hotel. We've got the Colonnade Plaza. And again, I don't know how far this goes, but we had reports about 19th Street. So this is that's about 7 blocks at least on Brickell Avenue.
Hey, Brian, this is Art. You're from Miami. How does it feel being there, walking on that street with ankle-high water and just what you're seeing around you?
It's interesting because I just came back from Houston, and I didn't ride out the storm there, but I was there after the recovery. This just began to recover. It was amazing to see what was Houston, that kind of flooding. I haven't seen that sort of flooding here, but this reminds me of it. And having been down here, I haven't seen this kind of flooding, even with Hurricane Wilma. Remember, we hadn't been hit here in a very long time. And I was here in 2005. We got hit with Katrina and by Wilma, and that was the worst of it. And many of us here in South Florida had not experienced a big-time storm until now, since then. And I think in terms of the flooding, I don't remember it ever being this way after that storm. And I was in Boca Raton, just about an hour north from here. So it's a lot of storm surge. And this is what they were talking about, though, from the very beginning. It may not have been the 10-foot storm surge, but it's definitely enough to have gotten on the first floor and on the basement levels, at least, of some of these buildings here. It's pretty incredible to see this, guys.
Yeah. All right, Brian Yennis there in Miami. Thank you very
here
much.
Here in Naples had risen about 7 feet.
Look at those pictures. Listen to that wind.
What do you know about that, and what can you do with that information to project forward in terms of what we're looking at here?
Well, I tell you what, first and foremost, I'll answer that. But, Chris, I just want to thank you and your crew for what you've done today. It's very rare to get the pictures you have given us to match with the radar images. And there's not many times in history that all of us get to experience what's it like to batter that eye wall and then into the eye. When it comes to the storm surge there, yes, it's been 7 feet. In fact, 4 feet in just 20 minutes. But you got to start at where the level of normalcy is. So the water level is up 4.1 feet above normalcy. The forecast is actually 5 to 8. So it's reasonable to assume that you're getting that wraparound wind. You can actually see another 3.5 to 4 feet if we go with the forecast. Now, word moments ago, down in Marco Island, the water is now overlapping the seawall. That's not what you want to hear. Water rides farther and faster over water instead of just land. Now, we're hoping now that this has made landfall, that Irma's going to start to choke and sputter, kind of like cutting the fuel line off for your lawnmower. It still has energy. Until that pressure starts to rise, we're not going to lose the significant strength as far as some wind gusts, but we'll still have damaging winds. When you look at the radar, and you mentioned, Chris, 2.3 million without power, I want to mention that's just customers. That's not the number of people without power. That's one home or one business. 2.3 million without power is almost 50% of their customers. So, or Florida. So, I mean, that's massive to look at. All right. Still have the tornado watch, and we still have warnings. Let's not forget about the East Coast that is seeing extreme surge, band after band of rainfall. We cannot forget about that. And in fact, around just looks like near the Orlando area, north and south, tornado warnings. We've seen over 33 tornado warnings. That number will go up. Now that we have the eye in the center here, we'll go in a little bit closer. We are about 3 hours from Port Charlotte. Now, again, when we make our way in the eye toward Fort Myers, you are in the northern band. And again, we're going to see probably the center of the eye get there within the hour. So they're going to go through the same thing you went through. 3 hours to Port Charlotte, and then about 6 to even 8 hours in the Tampa area. What's frightening at this point is that the same conditions that everybody watched, that Chris Cuomo went through, they're going to go through this, but in complete darkness. So we won't have the visuals of the flying debris, of the wall of water extending out or coming back in. So when you're flying blind, the fright really starts to grip you, and it will. But again, we're starting to see a little bit of a breakdown on that southern eye wall, which is great news, Chris, although the engine is still running, and so the surge will continue to push into every bay, every canal. And again, as we've talked about the last couple days, we're not talking about a few hundred feet. I thought I heard you say you're like 5 to 8 blocks in. We're looking at a surge that could be as far in as several miles. And some of the inundation maps from the National Hurricane Center were pushing in as far as 8, 10, even 12 miles in some cases on this coast. But again, that happens when the center of the storm is to the north. Again, the wind gusts we're getting, and this is quite interesting, even up toward Orlando, gusts of 43. By the time the system moves northward, it'll start to kind of stagger the imagination that even in Orlando, if the system kind of continues to hang a little eastward, gusts at 85 are not out of the realm of possibility. Even up toward Tallahassee, they could see 70, 75 mile per hour wind gusts. But notice down in Naples, when you were at that 141 reported wind gusts, we have no longer any instrumentation to go with. That most likely will be the scenario as the storm continues, but we're hoping to lose a little bit of a punch with this as it moves in. But again, Chris, as you've been talking about the storm surge, 9 out of 10 people in hurricanes lose their lives from water. So it doesn't matter if it's surge or what's falling, 9 out of 10, and you've been getting the message out. We all appreciate that.
God forbid we'll keep an eye on it. I have eyes on this street for you, Tom. That's the best I can do in terms of monitoring what happens with this surge. We do not envy those who have to go through the eye of this storm in the dark. That is the stuff of nightmares, and our hearts go out to those who are doing that with their loved ones and probably don't have power, so they're not even able to follow along and benefit from your wisdom and timing. Tom, thank you very much. We'll check back with you in a little bit. Right now, before we go to break, let's check in with Miguel Marquez. He's in Punta Gorda, and I don't know if you could hear Tom, Miguel, but this is a big lady that we're dealing with here with Hurricane Irma. She's going to hit you hard, and it's going to last for a long time.
Irma has been hitting us for a while, and it is definitely getting worse. I don't know if we're going to have it as badly as you, but what Tom talked about, 3 hours from Port Charlotte, we're just south of Port Charlotte. We're about 60 miles north of where you are, so we're experiencing what you did a little while ago. This is the marina. This is what's amazing. That water here is still going out on this side. This is the marina. There is no seawater in this marina anymore. It's all fresh water just pouring in off the land from this storm. The boats you see off in the distance, the big one and then the boat there, those are sitting on mud right now, incredibly enough. If you look over here to the left, you can see that there's a sign that's just about to come off of a pole there. That's the power of this wind. And then look at the trees in here. These are some of the strongest winds we've seen so far. The palm trees are just, perpendicular. They don't look. Doesn't look very normal. It's amazing that these things can stay up and do fine. All the way around, it looks like Punta Gorda, at least this section of it, has just lost electricity a little while ago as well. I think they expected that. The emergency management folks talked about the storm hurricane force winds around 8 p.m. tonight. I don't know if this storm has slowed down or not. Perhaps Tom can speak to that later, but clearly it may be slowing down a little bit before we get to that other side of the eye wall when the wind will change direction and all that water that was washed out to sea will all come back. They're expecting a 5 to 8 foot storm surge here, that wall of water from the ocean, about 3 feet on land they're expecting. So we're going to watch for that and maybe have to change positions before that happens. Chris?
All right, Miguel, stay safe, stay in touch. Dave, as we go to break, show them our giant-sized weather vane, the crane. It's not a danger here because luckily it's not as high as those high-rise cranes in Miami proper where they had trouble with a couple of them, but it is pointing straight in the direction of the Gulf. That's where this wind is coming from. So literally, the wind has the best advantage it could to send the maximum amount of water from the Gulf in storm surge right up into the heart of Naples. So we're going to take a break right now. We will keep an eye on the storm surge, and we will show you where her...
Barthel's after a long 30-hour onslaught of battering and punishing winds and rains. The storm's just about out of southeast Florida. Just a few of the backside outer bands remain, and clearly Hurricane Irma is not going out with one more slap to the face. It's been raining and windy here suddenly when we thought the last outer band was done with us for about the past 15 minutes. But this is 79th Street Causeway, a major causeway artery between the beach, which is the direction you're looking, and the city of Miami, which is on the other side. And this is a street where we saw 2 cars stall out because the storm surge came in at about 12:30, just in time for high tide. The street was very much flooded, but it is definitely starting to drain out, so the effects of the storm surge here in Miami-Dade County are quick to subside. If we went out to Brickell downtown, where Brian Yanis was, you could see heavy flooding also there earlier this afternoon. More stalled cars stuck in the median. And at the Pelican Harbor Marina, where we began the morning, it was very raucous. Boats were rocking, and the rain was really coming down. Palm trees were swaying. But then we saw actually that the waters were rising, and we didn't want to get stuck, so we came back over here. And the storm surge on 79th Street, take a look at this video we shot earlier. It was just blinding, the wind, the rain, like pellets bouncing off your body, if not rocks. It was very, very much of a beatdown day. Nobody was outside for the most part. After all, who would choose to do such a thing? As for the city and county, they had curfew tonight, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., simply because there's so much debris on all the roads, so many traffic signals have no power, so they're not operable. And many roads are impassable because of downed power lines and debris and branches in the roadway. And from the Division of Emergency Management just now announcing 25% of all Florida houses and businesses currently have no power at this point. With 2 per household and business on average, that means 10 million Floridians are spending tonight with either battery-powered fans, a generator if they're lucky, or no electricity at all for perhaps 2-3 days or maybe even longer. Utility crews, 17,000 strong for FBL alone, are on the standby. They're on the ready. They're certainly not going to get started on trying to replace the transponders that were blowing up and lighting the sky up electric blue this morning.
If you write anything on your computer, you need to get
Greg. It could be a very long march ahead to get everybody back online. And in the recovery effort and the getting back to normalcy effort after a hurricane, one of the first things you want is your electricity to work so you can get back home. And it's very hot in September in Florida. It makes things even more miserable, especially if you have a lot of damage and insurance issues to deal with at your house.
Definitely, definitely, for sure. Hey, Phil, how far are you from Brian Yanis? Because you have the high winds there, you've got lots of rain, and it was, I think, seems like drizzling in Brian's shot. So how far away are you?
We're on 79th Street. He's downtown towards the Zero. I'd say about 8.5 miles north of him, due north.
Not that far.
That's the way these bands are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Phil Keating, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you a little bit later.
Just look at those palm trees. Listen to that wind.
And we are just getting whipped right now with it. The other problem, of course, this wind that is whipping us is somewhere along the coastline, 3 miles from me, bringing that surge and that water into where we did some of those earlier shots. This beach road, we'll see how far. It won't be 3 miles, but it'll certainly be blocks like it was in Wilma in 2005. When you talk to the locals, the first thing they tell you is, oh, I hope it doesn't flood like it did on Gulf Shore Drive in 2005. Well, my guess is, and I'm not going there anytime soon, my guess is when we take a look, when this blows over, it's going to be equally that bad. And it's also worth pointing out that back literally on this day in 1960, Hurricane Donna whipped this area and devastated this morning.
The real deal. There's a benefit for us to be here is that when this is done, as you know, we're going to go out with search and rescue, and we're going to volunteer our time, and we're not working. Oh, there are those gusts you're talking about. And it's going to be good to know where the worst of it seems to be going. Like the branches are starting to come off this tree next to us. It was only a matter of time. She's starting to let go, fellas.
The wind is just too dangerous, and it's really the lack of visibility. We can barely see 100 yards in either direction. And obviously with the winds blowing at this speed, if there is debris